Hey guys, and welcome back to the Digital Income Family Podcast. Today we have, I guess, a juicy one. I don't know. Doug wanted me to tame down the name of the podcast.
Listen, Haley runs up to 400-pound bears and just like prods them with forks.
Okay, I do not.
That's like, her thing.
Listen, it's just my nature to. I'm like a YouTuber, right? So stirring the pot.
If you're not watching this, I'm like making a witch pot motion here.
Stirring an invisible pot. Okay. The title for this is Top 7 Reasons You're Still Broke and How to Change Them. Doug wanted me to say.
I wanted it to be something more like uplifting, like 7 steps to generational wealth.
Nah.
Or something lame, but Haley was like, no, that's not going to get clicks.
Listen, like I don't want to trigger people. Well, I'm going to because I'm triggered. Okay. So like, I just like to speak what I feel like is my truth. I want to actually help people. I don't want to be, I already told Doug, like a vanilla brand that's copy paste from everybody else. I want to talk numbers. And this is like the vision I have for our brand, like numbers and experiences and moments where we like rip each other's heads off and like what we learned.
Truths and just everything like, that's there
raw.
For sure.
Yeah. So these 7 things, we have done these things.
Yes. And this is why I feel comfortable talking about them is because we have faced them. We have had challenges with them and we do still run into them occasionally. Like they do still rear their big old ugly heads. And it does still happen, and which is why we want to talk about it. But they are, in fact, things that if you can overcome these things, it does unlock like the next step. Like it unlocks another level. It levels you up to be super like generic with what people say nowadays. It levels you up. It absolutely does. And so you need to know these things if you want to be able to make money. And so in turn, yes, they keep you broke.
Yes, they do. And they kept us broke for like the first, I mean, we still battle, like I said,
for like
25
first
years.
50 years of our lives.
50 years?
I'm just making it up.
Time traveler? Okay, so the first
combined,
one.
50 years combined.
The first one is you are currently following the path of people in your life who live lives that you don't actually want to live.
Okay, yes, 100%. We're gonna reel back the yous here because I don't want you guys to get too offended. Haley's like, you are living. No, I'm just kidding. She's not saying it that way. But people do live the way that they're told, and they're mimicking the lives of the people that they're around because that's all they have for a long period of time.
Yeah,
right.
That's all they know.
Yeah, until like 18, you're really like inundated with like your parents, teachers if you're not homeschooled, and then like neighbors that are around you, and just the things that you see closest to you. Yeah. Right. But that changes now with the internet, and it changes with, and there's a lot of other opportunities. And when you realize that, hey, my life's not going a certain way because it's not going the way that, or because I'm following advice and what people say from a life I don't want to live, that's game changing, right?
And I honestly think like this is an epiphany I recently had is like, I think a lot of people don't even know like that what they're signing on the dotted line. Like they don't understand. That's why you hear a lot about like midlife crises, which is totally real. Like, okay, when I don't know how old I was when all my parents and their friends were like 40, 45, but all of my parents' friends, they were out buying motorcycles. Nothing wrong with that. Doug's like, that's cool. But like, they're just like buying a Porsche, like one of my friend's dads. They're depressed. They're drinking too much. Like I had a good upbringing, but I saw a lot of like midlife crises because I don't think people really realize like the American dream is America's an amazing place to live. But this dream that you're sold is a life of work, like delay your hobbies, delay like being with your family members. And it's just something that's just widely accepted and praised. And so, you start to question it once you're in it. Like after the first 20 years, you're like, wait a second.
Yeah. Well, some people never question it because they never open a book or they never see that there's another way of living.
Yeah. They're not even questioning it when they have like the midlife crisis.
Yeah, not at all. You just put your blinders on. You're like, people have midlife crises. Why I have mine too. I have mine, but whatever. And they're like, that's what people say. And then they just keep swimming and they're like, they're school of fish. And they never challenge the status quo. Yeah. Right. And so they never go out to take that risk. And even worse is that other people keep telling them the things that these other people that aren't as successful or that aren't living the lifestyle they want, they keep telling them the same thing over and over again. And it's just like, you never hear anything different. And so you're in like a think tank of all people whose lives you don't want to live.
Yes. So the whole phrase, like, you are the average of the 5 closest people to you, which if you haven't heard that phrase, the first time I heard it, I was like, oh my gosh, like, oh crap. Like, not like I don't like my family or friends.
Rude.
But it's like they're not doing much. Like, they don't open a book, they don't like a lot of people that I love dearly. Like, they don't want more for themselves. And I do. And you don't have to, like, no shade, like straight up. If you want to be a stay-at-home mom, living on one income, you're so happy. that is good for you. Like that's cool for you. And if you are a guy that is a doctor or a teacher, I don't care, and you love it and you're okay with it, this podcast, like that's not what we're doing on the podcast, though,
Absolutely.
So anyways, you're following the path of people whose lives you don't really want to live. That's the first one.
Yes.
So you have to, we're not going to really give tips here. These are just the 7 reasons, but you have to inundate yourself with new, inputs. So you get different outputs, so like swap like the people that you're following on Instagram.
That's a huge one. It's like, it's no longer like the 5 people closest to you as well. It's also like the 50 people you follow on social media.
1,000 people.
Yeah. Like that's a big deal too, because you keep hearing the same thing that all these other people are doing. All the old people back in high school, all that kind of stuff. Like it's going to keep you where you are.
Yeah. So this happened to us, like, not to make this super long, the first one, but this happened to us. Like, we joined our first mastermind, and people were throwing around numbers like, oh, $10,000 we spent this month on ads, $20,000. Like, it was not a big deal. Or that they made $500,000 through their last launch was like not a big deal. And we're like, whoa, like, and it's not all about money and numbers. This is a podcast dedicated to digital income, right? But that's why we focus on it. But we realized, like, there are people out here that $1 million is not a lot of money to. Like, because so it just changed our perspective. And I think that's what you need, a perspective change.
Yeah, that's exactly all it is.
So the second one, do you want to talk about this one?
Oh, I got to read what it says here. The second one says, this is a huge thing. Okay. People are trained. Okay. I'll read the phrase first and then I'll give my thoughts on it. Okay. So the thing is that you're not learning anymore. Like you stopped learning.
This was me.
Once you got out of school. Okay. Yeah. So like that is a huge thing, because not to get too crazy, those are 3 things you don't talk about. You don't talk about, like, what is it?
Religion.
Money, religion, and politics. Okay, and I think schooling kind of falls under politics a little bit. But like the school system, it seems like all of my friends, or at least the people that I know, a vast majority of people don't like school, therefore they don't like learning.
Yeah, okay, that's why we homeschool, obviously.
And that is why we homeschool, because we want to foster an environment of learning. Like, we should be learning. But when you're in a place for 16 or 18 years of your life, or however long it is, of where you don't like learning, you don't want to be there, you're going to have a negative association with it. So once you get out of school, you never want to learn anymore. Yeah. Okay. And so if you stop learning, how are you going to figure all this other stuff out so you can be successful and do all this new stuff, right?
So I don't know what advice I'd have. Not this is an advice podcast, but for the learning thing, like, what can you do? It's like, again, it's just changing the inputs in your life. If you see a lot of other people that have success in relationship, child rearing, like, it does not just have to be money or wealth. And you notice patterns like, oh, they're all learning all the time. Yeah. Then maybe I should too. So
you have to be willing to, not to cut you off there, but you have to be willing to say to yourself, I don't know everything. And I need to learn. And learning doesn't mean going back to school, people. Like, everyone's like, I need to go back and get my master's or get my doctorate. It's like, no, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that you have to be willing to, like Haley said, take inputs from other people and not be I'm trying not to curse on this podcast, but you can't be lame about it. Like me, I was very stubborn. I didn't want to learn anymore because I was like, I know everything I need to know. Yeah. It's like, but you don't.
Yeah. And I think another thing is, like, schools, like, okay, you have to read these crap books. Like, honestly, like, I mean, all the books that I read in high school and in college, I guess I didn't read much. I was a business degree, like, so, but even in high school, it's like, I wouldn't have chosen those books. So then I just,
why do I need to read the Scarlet Letter? Or like whatever books there are that are Dante's
Inferno, but it's like, these books are boring. Books are boring. Oh my gosh, books are boring. I hate books. Like, and then, you realize, wait a second, all these entrepreneurs, that's what happened to us. They're all reading all the time. They read like definitely over a book a month. I got to start adopting those habits.
Yeah, they're not reading Harry Potter. You know what I'm saying? Like,
nobody reads that anymore.
That was a
Nowadays
thing. Nowadays,
it's like crime podcasts and Netflix.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, once upon a time we used to be like straight up, I wouldn't say addicted, but we were really liked Netflix binging when we first got married.
Dude, we used to watch all the shows, man.
Dude, what was that one? Oliver the McQueen.
Oh yeah,
Arrow.
No, yeah.
That's how we came up with the third child name Oliver, because we watched Arrow so many. Which
yeah,
is like
that
a
was
really
such a long
old
time
show.
ago.
But yeah, like we would sit there and watch like 3 hours of Netflix. And nowadays, not to be annoying, we don't even know what's on TV.
No,
like we have a TV right over there, but we don't even have TV. Like we use it for PBS Kids.
Yep,
like
it's sometimes. A fun time.
Yeah. So, anyways. I don't miss it. It's kind of like, I do think it's sort of addicting a little, like television.
Absolutely.
And like leisurely, like needing your rest time because you're burnt out from the day or you're tired, like all the stuff we used to say. But yeah, it's just like a habit.
We should do a podcast where we just read out like excuses and lame things that everybody says that we used to say too. Yeah. Don't worry, people. Yeah, goodness gracious. So, I already know people are standing up in their seats and stuff right now.
Dude, yeah. Okay. So, I mean, I still watch YouTube, but it's like entrepreneurial stuff. Super boring. Okay. So,
how to make sourdough bread.
Yep. Yeah. Number 3, you rely on other people or the government to save you.
I thought we weren't going into politics and other things that's here, but here we are.
So yeah, people just like, and I wouldn't say I'm this way. My dad really conditioned me to like not be a leech onto other people. Mm-hmm. He was like,
my dad works for the government.
I know, it's so funny. Love him. But my dad would say like, nothing's for free. And I'd be like, look, Dad, I'm getting a free cookie from this restaurant. He's like, that's not for free. You pay a price. Yeah. And so I was always like trained that you don't expect anything for free ever.
Yeah.
And you work your ass off for whatever you have in your life. So
yeah, and I had a drawer full of coupons. You know what I'm saying? Buy one get one free. Like,
I mean, they use coupons. Like, yeah. But yeah, so relying on other people. So when I say people, I just mean like your boss or your company to give you a raise, or I mean, what else?
Yeah, I mean, it's like other people to give you handouts. Why doesn't the universe give me opportunities?
Yeah, like if you have that mentality, which I've still, like, everyone battles with it, you know, nothing's coming for you. Let me tell you that.
Yeah,
like, seriously.
Yeah, nothing's gonna come out for you.
And get it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You absolutely have to be able to go out and get it. And that was something that I struggled with a lot too. Was like I was very much so a hardcore like go-getter at work, you know, so relying though upon my work to get my boss to do things. And I even thought I was a go-getter, thinking like I was ahead of the curve because I would do work that wasn't required of me.
Yeah.
But I was still reliant on this trap of like, well, I need them to okay my raise instead of me making the raise happen.
Yeah.
You know, they still needed to approve it.
And you can do all these things like even if you work for somebody else, like you can make it happen. But
yeah, absolutely.
Very ironic that I say the 4th one is don't expect perfect conditions as the baby wakes up.
Yeah, he's one big condition, that's for sure.
He's here and he's huge. Okay, if you're watching this on YouTube, he's still asleep on me. So, anyways, but the show must go on. Okay, so what do you think that means for people?
I mean, everyone I talk to, and I've done 1,000+ sales calls. Okay. And one of the biggest objections I come up with is that they don't feel like it's the right time or it's not the perfect time to do things.
Yeah.
And like to people, perfect timing means they're comfortable and they're ready to take a risk. And they're like
never,
they have so much buffer in place that if something bad happens and it doesn't work out, it's okay and everything's going to be perfect. But nobody ever feels that way. Like that isn't like you can't wait for some kind of a time like that. If you're already having a time like that, you're never going to do anything because you don't need to leave that comfort.
Yes. I also think it's just like, that is how, again, society conditions you, is like everything is a perfect time. Like you go to school and then you graduate and then you get your degree and then you get a raise every year. Then you go on vacation, you have your first baby, or 2 point, whatever Doug said the other day, you told me like 2.18 kids at age 30 years old in California and like 20 in the South, you know, like it's just like whatever is society, wherever you live, is telling you that this is, and then you buy a house, you know, that's like the perfect conditions. But I've totally thrown that out the window since, you know, being self-employed. Yeah. It like nothing's perfect when you're self-employed. But the reason why you can sit there and say, oh, I got to wait for the right time is because 99% of the time you're not self-employed.
Absolutely.
And you have the comfort of waiting until things, like, I don't know, it's just, you're never going to do anything, I find, with your life if you are working from a place of waiting for perfect conditions.
And because
you don't need it that bad.
From a place of comfort.
Comfort,
you know? Like comfort kills, almost episode, is how I would say, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you're too comfortable, it just kills your drive and your ability to do things. If I were to be more, how would I put this? If I were to be more specific to our industry and our people and people that are like wanting to do online courses or anything like that, what a lot of people say the perfect condition is like, oh, I have a good sized audience, or I know my perfect niche, I have the offer already set. No. It's like, that's not how that works. Okay, you guys, like, you don't magically like just know the answer to something.
Yeah,
you're
they
like,
think
okay,
it's gonna come to them in a dream or something.
Yeah, let me go get the steps now, because like from Doug and Haley, because I know the answer to what I'm supposed to do. That's not how that works.
Yeah, you have to like put out a lot of things on the internet before it screams back to you. The marketplace tells you that didn't work. Like, do this, you know. You
have to make things, you have to start doing things before the answers come. But if you're like, I'm not going to do anything until I already have the answers, well, then it's like a chicken and egg thing and you're just never going to make any progress. Yeah. Like, to me, that's like the biggest thing.
Yeah. So the 6th one is you blame your circumstances for where you're at, and you don't think your circumstances and the possibly shit things that have happened to you for putting you in this perfect position to succeed in whatever area you want in your life.
Yeah, it falls a little bit back to that other step about, waiting for the perfect conditions to be able to happen.
Yeah.
Like if you don't think you've had the perfect life or the perfect circumstances, then that perfect condition is never going to happen, and you're just never going to get anywhere. And so it's like you can't control so many outside factors, but you can control your reaction to the outside factors, right?
I see a lot of people, they will say, well, it's not the right time for me to really go full force with this because like I'm pregnant, which I do understand. Okay, if you're really sick, like I get it. If you have a medical condition, like things like that, or you're extremely nauseous, like I understand. But usually, like people don't have crazy ailments.
No,
it's really because we're in the middle of moving, or
I'm trying to sell my house. My husband's trying to do this thing.
Like I got to get a raise first, or maybe when my kids are like in school because it's summertime and they're always around me. It's like when you're trying to live a life where you're self-employed or you're an entrepreneur, what are you gonna do when you actually, if you were so lucky, obviously not lucky, but if you worked so hard and you actually got the success, you are living the life of your dream. Let's imagine you retire your spouse and do this full time. You make $100,000 a month and you're wealthy and you can give and whatever, have all the time you want. What are you going to do when that happens? You can't wait then for kids to go back to school. You can't wait for you to stop being nauseous. Like I hate to say it, when you're pregnant. That one's a touchy one because I have like extreme morning sickness and I don't work. But you know what I mean? Like you can't literally like put things on pause. So you like we've said before, you have to adopt the identity of like, I am successful. This is who I am. This type of person that I'm trying to be, the person that I'm right now. Like they don't wait for anything. This is just the life that I live and I'm thankful. You know? So,
you have to like understand that your circumstances got you to where you are now. But once you realize your circumstances brought you here, you can take control.
Yeah.
And that's really the way that it should be. You can't let your circumstances dictate all the stuff that you're doing every time. And like Haley said, obviously, if there are crazy things, medical things that are happening, or like all this other stuff that's happening, like there is a line that is like, this is acceptable. Please do not pressure yourself into doing things. We're not psychos here. Like if something comes up to one of our students and it's wild, I'm like, hey, take your time. We'll jump back in when you're ready, but you got to go handle this thing because we work for our family. We work for our kids. Like, that's how it is. We don't work for the sake of working, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, the fact that you're tired because like your fire alarm went off too long or something and you don't feel good that day.
Or I hear people, they'll say like, oh, I've had like migraines all week. I just couldn't get to it. I'm like, yeah, but what if you were self-employed?
What if this is how you fed your kid? Would your migraine get in the way of feeding your child?
You somehow figure something out.
Yeah, for sure.
So medical condition, totally touchy. We're not like absolute rude psychos. Like we're not. But it's just a lot of excuses. You become like the excuse person, Yeah. And we've been the excuse people.
Absolutely.
Like I've had severe like excuse-itis.
Stuff scares me. Yeah, stuff scares me all the time.
Yeah.
Growth and obstacles and that kind of stuff scares me.
How we see it now, since we are like entrepreneurs, is like when I had him 18 months ago or 19, whatever, we launched like in the hospital because it's just life. Like that is just what we have to do. I'm not like, dang it, I have to do like stories and I have to launch this thing. Doug's got to fix a funnel when my new baby's born. That sounds depressing. And some people will be like, why did you do that? We don't even blink at it. It's just life. Like it's not sad. We're so grateful. We're excited. And it's what we do. Like it's just who we are. So it's just a different mindset. It's like, you can't stop, and we are not workaholics at all, but you just go through it, Yeah. So the next one, I guess is this a fifth one or the sixth one?
I think it's the fifth one. Yeah, I don't know what happened.
Yeah. But it is, you are uneasy with being uncomfortable. So there's a better way to say that.
Yeah, it's kind of a tongue twister, but what it really is like the idea of things not going your way, or the idea that it's not going to work out exactly the way that you want, makes you not want to do it.
You get scared.
Yeah, and so you have to be, what was the phrase that you're saying? You have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable or something like, you have to understand that things might happen, things will happen, and you're going to push through anyways.
Yeah, it's just life. It's just business. So a lot of people are like, well, what happens if my course flops? I'm like, well, you figure out why, and then you don't do that again. You just look at the numbers, you look at its math, and you look at the data, and you see
don't like me.
It's not. Yes. Well, why don't people like you? Why is your stuff boring? Like, why didn't your sales page convert? There's like a million things. And so people will be like, well, it's I'm too scared that it will flop. and publicly I'll be shamed by my relatives because I'm putting myself on the internet. It's so awkward.
Yeah, nobody cares what your cousin says.
You shouldn't
either,
it
doesn't matter.
But yeah, so you got to be so comfortable with the uneasiness that's going to come at you from all sides. Your mom's going to be like, you're stupid. What are you doing? Throwing away your blah or doing whatever. You have to be so okay with it. Like when I was a YouTuber, my mom, I've said this before and she knows, like, it's not like I'm shaming her, but she was like, Haley, are you sure about that? Like she didn't, honestly, like for good reason, like YouTube wasn't really around that long. Like it was, but there's only like the first generation of people that were successful.
It wasn't like a YouTuber's a thing.
Yeah, I want to be a YouTuber. Like nobody said that. And so I was like, Mom, I'm really like, I hate the job that I'm in. Like I don't want to do finance or marketing. Like I want to make money online. I can do this like through AdSense. I knew of nothing else besides AdSense. Sponsors were kind of iffy back then too. And she was like, listen, like, Dad, I don't think that sounds smart. Like you just spent a lot of money. You're in college debt. You got this business degree. You worked your ass off and now you're going to not use it. Like, are you sure that? I don't know about that. And my dad was like, do it. He's crazy. So, but that's why it's just like, that was the first thing where I was like, uh-oh.
It kind of made you uncomfortable, right?
My mom is right. That's the thing. It's like these people are usually right and they do it from a place of love. Like you can't be like, they suck and they're not supportive. They're not part of my 5 people, get off my energy bus, whatever. It's like they just want you to be safe. They want you to be happy, and so you're going to disappoint a lot of people. Your boss might find out. Another thing, comfortable with being uncomfortable,
gosh, dude, just all the time. Like
people online are going to say stuff to you. But nowadays to us, it's like just another day.
Yeah.
And we don't even blink.
No, you have to be willing to be able to like go out and do weird stuff.
And also, but besides the whole trolls and like people, we have faced so much rejection. Like we don't even talk about. And honestly, probably every other month, I'm like, dude, is this worth it? Because it's so exhausting, demoralizing. We don't talk about this stuff, obviously, but like from big influencers, not like a ton of people, but like some people, they either won't want to give us a testimonial because, they think that it will make them look greedy to their brand. If they knew, if their brand knew how, or if their audience knew how much money they made. And we're just like, are you serious? Like we got you so much success, like, no, like, or just people will ghost us because I'm okay with like reaching out. I'm not afraid of no and rejection. I mean, I am, like everybody is, but
nobody wants to hear no or rejection.
It's exhausting.
It's exhausting, but you have to do
business.
it. Yeah.
So a lot of people are so scared, but you really just gotta open your mind, and just think of the future, I guess. I don't know. That's bad phrasing, but okay. So the 7th one is, we already kind of touched on it, but it's like, making excuses, but more importantly, it is not questioning what you believe to be true.
Man, like this is the biggest thing to me. Okay. This is the biggest key, the biggest roadblock, the biggest reason why I was poor and still am poor in comparison to a lot of other people that are really successful out there.
Yeah, like even people that make $1 million a month, it's always down to their beliefs.
Yes. And it's always one of those things that keeps them from hitting that next level is like, what is that belief that you have, that is causing you to make an excuse because you believe that is the way it is.
Yeah.
I know that sounds like a lot of fluffy woo-woo stuff that's there.
Or like they don't believe that the next level will be possible at all or in the way that they want or with the like circumstances they have. So like to give you an example, I mean, what is an example? Everything comes down to our beliefs. So it's like, I used to believe that I needed to have a massive audience to hit 6 figures a month. And so because I believed that I needed a massive audience, like I literally tried to get a massive audience. It never happened to me because that belief is wrong. And so once I saw other people in masterminds hitting that with like no following at all, I was like, well, what are they doing? So I broke the belief. We were able to hit 6 figures a month. And I was like, wow, it's just because of what I believed.
Yeah. Or like we believed that only the big players in the space had to do ads, or there was only one way. This was a big one. Okay. To me, the big one was like, there's only one way that's right.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's a belief that people have. People believe that they have to do it this way or they have to do it that way and they have to do it whatever way this person is saying.
Yeah, like that's okay because like that's okay for people to do. So like let's say you pay into like a course or a mentorship and the person's like, listen, this is the way and this is the only way. Because usually people that teach you something, they teach their way and that way is right and it's right for them. And so that's what we do. Like honestly, we're like, listen.
This is what I'm trying to say though. What I'm trying to say is when that way doesn't work for you, you say it's not going to work. Like nothing will work. It's not, because like if this is the only way that's going to happen and I didn't make it happen, then it's not meant to be.
Yeah.
Like I can't find another way to do it.
Totally.
You know, and that's what I don't want people to do, is to make the excuse that like your belief that this was going to be the big thing and it didn't work out and now you're just not going to do it anymore. Like that's going to keep you poor.
And we sort of like knew about beliefs because I had paid into like a manifestation like programs.
Oh yeah,
and,
I forgot about that.
Like not like woo-woo-y stuff, but just knowing like about beliefs and like learning about the subconscious mind. And
yes.
I did this like 2 or 3 years ago. And so I knew that like when we bought into programs, right, because I started learning like for the first time of my life, we bought into other programs. Like we bought into one guy's course or whatever he was calling it a mastermind or something. I don't know. It was like $6,000, which was a lot at the time. It wasn't as much as we had spent before, but he taught us his way, and we realized, oh, this way is not really right for our family. And so we weren't like, he didn't help us, like this didn't work like some people do. They're not good, like whatever. It's really just well, I didn't follow it to a T, so what do I expect, you know? So it does come down to beliefs, like what you believe to be possible for yourself under your circumstances. Now I like to say, if someone else is doing it, like we can do it.
Yes, no, that's exactly what it is. And it's just like,
in the same circumstance.
Don't let the beliefs turn into excuses.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. You can't let the belief turn into an excuse. Like if you recognize that it is a belief, you can go out and crush that belief. Yeah. And like that's exactly what should be happening.
Yeah. So nowadays we're like always questioning our beliefs.
You have to question like everything.
Like the other day I was like, I want to work 1 to 4, which is my new magical time frame.
Yeah.
And I was like,
and I went,
why?
Because I believed that it couldn't happen. It was my belief. And then here we are.
For different reasons. Okay. We're not going to get too personal. But yeah, I mean, what time is it? That reminds me, it's 2:40. But yeah, so it's just little things in your whole life, you know, that if you can't change them, then you can't change your life, you know, because you're it's going to be like, you know, you're stake in the ground, like this is truth.
Yeah.
And so anyways, I think that's like about it for the 7 things that
I know you could turn each one into a podcast.
I know,
like,
seriously.
We're not going to go that far.
But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening this week, and we'll see you in our next one. Bye guys.